Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, and I want to thank you for tuning in for episode number 20 of Talking About Horses. In these broadcasts, I try to bring you some of the best riders, horsemen, trainers, equine advocates, and thought leaders in the horse industry for tips, insights, and stories. You can listen at home, at work, in the car, or in the saddle, either through Facebook, YouTube, or by downloading the podcast from the iTunes store or wherever you get your podcasts. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by my good friend, Wendy Murdoch. Wendy is an internationally recognized equestrian author, instructor, and clinician for over 23 years. She teaches her students...
Longer than that, Patrick.
Oh, longer than that now? Oh, well, we've got to update your bio there. Okay. 30, over 30 years. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Well, we need to update your bio on there. All right, let me get back to this introduction. So, instructor and clinician for over 30 years, Wendy teaches her students how to do what great riders do naturally. Her desire to understand the function of both horse and human, as well as her love of teaching, capitalizes on the most current learning theories in order to show riders how to exceed their own expectations. I apologize for the mix-up in the intro, but Wendy, thank you so much once again for joining me.
It's always a pleasure, Pat.
Oh, goodness. So, yeah, we've got to update your bio then on your Facebook page.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
what you got that.
yeah, there we go. See?
That's right.
Oh,
All right.
okay. Yeah.
I must have been on Facebook for quite a while now then.
There you go, right? So that's that's our little way of checks and balances to make sure everything stays updated.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Okay, so for anybody who's tuning in and listening, and we've got a good handful of folks already tuning in, which is great to see. For anybody that's tuning in that maybe doesn't know who you are or what you do you want to give them a better introduction than what I just gave?
Well, basically, I'm a scientist by training. I have a master's degree in equine reproductive physiology. While I was going to go for a doctoral degree, but while I was in college at University of Kentucky, I was running an event barn where a horse flipped over and then rolled over me and punched my femur through the socket. So that changed my life in about 10 seconds.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so instead of being a scientist, I met Linda Jones and Sally Swift and tried to figure out how to get my body functioning again so I could ride. And, that was 1984. So that's, 34 years later? I'm still at it.
There you go. Wow. So then it was through Linda that you learned about the Feldenkrais work then?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
Linda had trained with Dr. Feldenkrais at the San Francisco training in the 70s, and she combined her horse knowledge with the Feldenkrais method to create the Tellington Jones Equine Awareness Method, or team. And somebody gave me a team newsletter while I was in the hospital, and I read that, and I realized I needed to change the way I was approaching horses.
Oh, so that's what got you started. Okay.
Yeah, really.
Interesting.
Yep. Hunter Purdy was a woman in Kentucky, and she walked into my hospital room, and she handed me a Tellington Jones newsletter and a little book called by Richard Bach called Illusions. And they kind of changed my focus and direction.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So when did Sally Swift enter the picture?
So my first clinic with Linda was in October 85, to the day a year later after my accident. And then at my second team training, it was actually in Connecticut, in Washington, Connecticut. Kim Wellness was going to go to Gawler to ride in the WEG 3-day. And so she brought Linda in to help her get her horse ready. And Sally Swift had already been working with Kim Wellness, and Sally came down to the clinic. And it was February 1986, and I was sitting there doing tail pulls on a horse's tail, and this little tiny woman with gray hair walks over and goes, "Oh, look, that's going all the way through his spine." And that was Sally Swift.
No kidding. Wow.
Yep.
That's very cool.
So I met Sally in 86 in February, and then I took her instructor training in the summer of 86 in Colorado, where I met Robin Hood, Linda's sister, and who is also teaching team internationally. And so I met Sally in 86. I apprenticed with her in 1992, and was one of 11 people to apprentice with her full time in the world.
Really? Wow.
Yep. long time ago now.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. That I think that was a little part of your story that I didn't know. I didn't know the timeline on that.
Yeah. So 86, I met Sally, and then, like I said, 92, I apprenticed with her. And so that sort of, I studied team with Linda for about 10 years really intensely. And then I started working with Sally for the sort of the next 10 years. And then that's like in 2001, I started taking the Feldenkrais training, and that was 10, actually a little longer than that. I studied Feldenkrais, did quite a number of trainings for 16 years. And now, what am I doing? I know, a lot of things.
and now you're all over the place, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the way this goes, there's so much that we touch on and so much that we explore, and I'm sure you feel the same way. The more we learn, the more we see, the more paths we see open up for us.
And the other kind of interesting thing in that, Patrick, which I'm sure you find as well, is that there's certain people that you keep sort of connecting to, even if it's 10 years later, like kind of in this swirl of thought that I think when you have a particular focus in your thought or a particular way in which you think about horses, that you keep seeing certain names crop up over and over and over because they are sort of, if you will, in agreement with those concepts.
Yeah.
So I've had some people come back into my life recently that I haven't, heard or seen from in quite a while, and then they're kind of cycling back again. So it's kind of fascinating. It's a small world, actually.
Right? It is. It's global and small at the same time.
Yep.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah, it's cool.
So exciting. Yeah. And
I'm here on Martha's Vineyard at the Martha's Vineyard Community Horse Center, and a woman came in as a teacher on the island, and Sally Swift used to have a house on Martha's Vineyard. And so she knew Sally from the vineyard.
Wow.
Yeah, and worked with her like way early on in Sally's process. So, there's that kind of that sinking moment where you run into someone that's known Sally from a whole different perspective, from her summer island.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Like you said, everything kind of circulates around.
Yep, it kind of touches back.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So our discussion this evening, horseback safari.
Yeah.
So this is exciting, and I've been really lucky, I think, to share some conversations with you about this. And you've convinced me that I have to go at some point. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but absolutely I have to go at some point. It's something I've always wanted to do. And then when you mix safari and horses, I mean, how can you say no to that, right? But so before we get into kind of talking about how it works and all that stuff, how did you get started with that?
Well, and here again, this is where team comes back again, because in 1996 or 7, I'm not sure which, I went down to, in fact, this is so weird. So I went down to Florida because Robin Hood was doing a training at Ellie Jensen's place in Loxahatchee. And so I went down to assist Robin, and I was going to do some teaching, and I talked about saddle fit and stuff. And I went down, and one of the participants was this woman named Mary Robinson from Alaska. And I remember meeting her in the airport when we were coming in, and then at the end of the training, she was like, how would you like to take a group on horseback safari? And back then, it's like, you say yes to everybody, right?
Right. I don't anymore. Now I tell them you have to call my manager.
Oh, well, that's nice. But, sure, of course. And so, not knowing how serious this woman was. And the next thing, that's back in like AOL days, my email started and fax machine started. And the next thing I know, Mary is like on to me, like, come on, we're putting this group together. And so my first horseback safari was put together by Mary Robinson, and her company was Horsing Around International. And as those points of light touch, I was in Switzerland in September of this year, and the woman whom I've not seen, I haven't seen her since 2002, I think it is, Bridget, she was at that training, and she actually had photographs from that training in 1996.
Wow, cool.
And yeah, it was really cool because I didn't really remember it that well. And here's photographs of me teaching saddle fit, and here's Robin, and here's Ellie, and all these people that were there at that moment when I met Mary Robinson. So,
that's very cool.
Yeah, all these years later, and I reconnect with Bridget, who I haven't talked to in years.
Right. The day that started it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so our first safari was to Botswana, and we went to the Okavango Delta and it was 98. And we took 12 riders, and we flew into Harare, which is in Zimbabwe. And then we went from there to Victoria Falls, and then went out on safari out in Botswana. And on the very first ride, I remember we all got up and went down to the barn, and we got our horses, and we're going out. And it wasn't even a half hour into the ride, and the grass was tall, and it was golden at that point because it was dry season.
Okay.
And our guide goes, "Lion, talk loudly, walk slowly, do not run." And you're like, what?
Welcome to Botswana.
And there you look in the grass, and there's these two little gold half circles, which are the lion's ears, the tips of the ears. And we just, everybody just started talking really loudly, and we just really quietly walked our horses away. And that safari, we saw so many lions. We saw a couple of different prides, and we went back in the vehicle, and I got great photos of this male who was collared, and we just saw so many lions that trip. But Botswana is, the way they operate is there's a base camp. Basically, think of a lodge or a hotel.
Okay.
And the horses are stabled in a barn at night, and we'd ride out every day and explore the area around the camp, each day going in a different direction. So that's one style that you can have there. What we do in Kenya is quite different. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So this trip was fantastic, and we loved it, and we got home, and Mary's like, "Okay, shall we do it again?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so the next year was 99, and we got another group together, and I brought Joyce Harmon with me, Dr. Joyce Harmon, and we were bringing in, they needed, it's so hard to get stuff in Kenya or in Africa at all for horses. The duty is really, really high. And it's just hard to get good stuff. So we packed our bags. We took, I don't know how many of the wool felt pads, Western wool felt pads. I think we had like 10 of them. We took my dressage saddle. Joyce brought her computer saddle fit pad, the pressure pad.
Yeah.
Her thermography camera, and we had 2 laptops. We had like $40,000 worth of research equipment with us.
Oh my gosh! To run into a pride of lions.
No, but we flew through Johannesburg, and we got to Joburg, and it was like, they were like, we're like, oh crap, are they going to give us a hard time with all our equipment?
Oh, right.
And there was this little moment going through customs, and it was like, okay, we got in. And then we flew from there, and we went up to Victoria Falls, which is in Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
And the year from the time when I was in Victoria Falls in 98 to 99, in 98 we went to the falls, and we were in the little town, and all the people are smiling, and everything was great. In 99 we got off the plane. There's a guy with a machine gun. It's $50 US to get in. So that was when Mugabe, who actually, they just had a coup in Zimbabwe, like yesterday. Yeah, Mugabe got into office, and there was a huge shift in Zimbabwe, and it was not a good shift. Zimbabwe used to be the breadbasket of Africa. They used to raise incredible beef and food, and they would make clothing. Like there was 20 degrees south was a clothing line. And in just a year, there was this huge shift, and then it was, we're like, okay, we're going to stay at Victoria Falls Hotel. And Victoria Falls Hotel, because we had all this research equipment, we didn't just want to stay anywhere. It is the most beautiful British grand hotel, Africa, that you could possibly imagine. huge campus, the big spiraling staircases up with all the mounts all the way up the stairs.
Wow.
And high tea and a view of the Victoria Falls. It was amazing, you know, like, because there's a bridge that goes over the falls there, goes from Zimbabwe to Zambia.
Okay.
So we stayed there that night with all our research equipment because we're like, oh boy. And then we flew out to Mound, which is in Botswana, and went out to the Delta. And the reason that we went early is that we went there to work on the horses, and Joyce did chiropractic and acupuncture, and I did training, and we actually did collect data, which we've never analyzed yet again.
Oh, no way.
But we, you know, to see how much can just chiropractic and acupuncture do,
Mm-hmm.
and how much is it important to have training, and in the end, I'm pretty sure our conclusion was you need the training to reinforce the chiropractic and acupuncture.
Sure.
But while we were there, so we came in this week early. We had the 2-week safari, and we came in a week early, and we're doing all this. And in the Delta, it's quite amazing, actually. There's huge quadrants of land that are portioned off to the different camps, and you're only allowed so many people in a quadrant. I'm talking hectares at a time. Well, the neighboring camp was the elephant back safari camp. And they actually have people ride African elephants. And they were having a problem with the saddle on one elephant. So they asked us to come over and saddle fit an elephant. I swear to God, I'm not making this up.
Nice. That's awesome. So did you take all the research equipment over to do that?
We did.
Did you?
We packed it all up, and they drove us over there, and we got there, and Joyce pulls out her computer saddle pad, and she opens the laptop, and it's dead.
No way.
No, yeah, it's dead. I have the best. I found it the other day. I gotta find it again. I have this fabulous photo of the guy sitting behind the head of the elephant. He's sitting on this elephant with the trunk coming down and the front legs. So you have this, you know, gap between the front legs and the head and the trunk.
Uh-huh.
And then through that gap, I have Joyce with the manager and the crew all staring at her little computer, trying to fix it.
Oh no. Oh no.
Which we did not manage to succeed at.
Oh.
But then I was wandering around, and I walk over to the elephant saddle, the one that they were having the problem with, and I'm like looking at this saddle, and it's this wood A-frame, and it had a pad. And so I take the pad and I peel it back, and there's a bolt. It's like a 3/4-inch bolt sticking down through a open cell foam pad.
Oh.
And I'm like, do you think this could be the problem?
Well, that's a fairly simple fix, isn't it?
Yeah, so I pointed this out to the crew. I'm like, I think this could be your problem.
No need for computers after all.
Yep. And so what happened next was they saddled up the elephants, and Joyce and I climbed up on this one that was having the problem. And he was obviously, I mean, you could feel the asymmetry in his gait as he was walking. And a woman took photographs of us, which we never got, so I have zero proof of riding an elephant.
Oh.
But we rode him back to the camp, and then we took the saddle off, and we used the thermography camera to look at the heat signatures and see what was going on.
Nice.
Yeah, but you know, the best use of thermography cameras in Africa is to go game spotting at night.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. Yeah.
So when we got back to our camp, one of the nights we went out game spotting, and we took the thermography camera, and we could find the bush babies in the trees really easy.
Oh, how cute. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was great. So that was the 2 times that I went to Botswana with Mary Robinson, and we got all of our equipment in and out. We never had a problem with that, which was great.
Good.
And came home, and then Mary kind of went silent for a while, and she wound up moving from Alaska to Oregon, to Medford, Oregon. And what year was it? It was like around 2007. She contacted me and asked me to come out and do a clinic. So I flew out to Oregon, and I walk into her house, and it's just chock-a-block full with Africa pictures and furniture and books and China, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm back. she's such a smart lady because she knew if she brought me out for a clinic and I saw all that, she'd be able to get me to go on another safari.
Ah, gotcha. There was a plan with all of that, a secondary plan.
Mary's a very shrewd woman. So I walk in, and the next thing we're talking about, let's go back on safari. And she's like, she had wanted me to go to Kenya after Botswana, but we never got that together. And so she started talking about Kenya. And if anybody has ever read the book Out of Africa,
mm-hmm.
it's a beautifully written book. And if you don't have the time to read, just get it, download it. I have it on my iBook. My audiobooks, and I play that when I'm driving, and the woman who reads that book has a perfect British accent, and it's so beautiful, that book.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I'm sitting there, and we start to talk about going to Kenya on safari, and she starts working on me, and then I went and did another clinic in Eastern Washington, and I mentioned it to my organizers, this a couple, and they were like, oh yeah, we want to go. And then I mentioned it to somebody else. And then the next person I started talking to, I was in her house, and she had this book called West with the Night by Beryl Markham. And Beryl used to be a bush pilot during the time of Karen von Blixen. It's another excellent book called West with the Wind? West with the Night. But it's Beryl Markham, and it's her memoirs. And she was there at the same time as the Von Blixens and Finch Haddon, Dennis Finch Haddon, who is Robert Redford or Meryl Streep's lover in the movie Out of Africa, which actually were real people.
Okay, gotcha.
So all these signs, and my friend was having Out of Africa movie playing on the TV.
What totally set the mood, right?
Oh my God! I'm like, I'm in it, and she's like, "You want to go to Africa?" She's like, "Yeah." So the next thing I know,
how could you say no at that point? You had all those subliminal messages, pushing in. You were already committed before she asked.
Yeah, basically. So she lasted me in again, and we put a group together, and it was a fabulous group, and we went in 2008. Well, we all flew out. So what you do is you fly to Nairobi internationally, and some of them stopped along the way, and we got out to Nairobi, and at that time we actually drove out to the Mara, which is about a 6-hour drive, got in the vehicles and drove out to the Mara and had this phenomenal safari, and then when we got back to Nairobi, it was my birthday is September 17th, and I wanted to be on safari for my birthday, so we arranged that. And we got back to Nairobi which was after my birthday, and found out the stock market had crashed. And it crashed on my birthday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that 2008 crash. And some of the people, their banks were closed. Shut. Their banks were gone.
Oh.
So that was a little bit of a drama, but it all worked out.
Okay.
But that was my first trip to safari was in 2008 when the market crashed. And Brad and we flew back to London, and then from London came home, and that's kind of. But anyways, since 2008, I have been out there. I've gone on safari 7 times to Kenya, to the same company with the same folks, because they are so amazing. It's Safari's Unlimited, and they're an amazing outfitter, and they've become family to us, to Brad and I. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's really neat.
That's going so many times with the same crew. I'm sure you guys have become friends and really gotten to know each other a lot.
Oh yeah, the crew's literally they said to us when we left in 2008, they said, now that you've been here, you are a part of our family. And in the West, somebody says that, and it's like, yeah. Well, when we went back on our next safari in 2010, Brad and I got out of the vehicle, and we felt more like home with our family than our families.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was so joyful, and it was so fabulous to see everybody. And they remembered the guests we brought the first time. They knew our names, and it's so hard to describe the people in Kenya and the crew, they're different. They're from different tribes. There's, I think, 42 different tribes in Kenya. But how genuinely, honestly happy they are to see you, and they, when they say something, it's not, they mean it. That's coming from the heart. They're so lovely, and they. Gordy Church is the guy who owns Safaris Unlimited, and his dad, Tony, started the company in 1971. And Mary had been there in 75. She'd ridden with them in the past, back in the 70s. And so that's why she wanted to get me back there, because she wanted to go there.
There. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she knew them well. She knew Gordy from when he was, in 70, he's 40-something now. She's like, Mama Safari is what they call Mary when we got there. And Mary's hysterically funny because she's like, this is my last safari. I'm not going to come back. And then the next year, this is my last. Her whole family, Mary's family, knows that this is my last safari means nothing. And so she's actually been out there since she said it was her last safari to me. But
oh, that's funny. That's funny. Just can't quit.
Nope, she's a lifer.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, with the kind of crew it sounds like you've got there, and with that feeling, like you said, of feeling like you're going home, it would be hard to turn down going. Yeah.
And it's, there's different kinds of safaris. And, like Botswana was from a base camp, and there's the lodges out in Kenya. But when you talk about true safari, what does that mean? Like, what was the safari like back in the 1800s?
Mm-hmm.
And what it was is that you went out with your crew, and you and your crew went on an adventure. And it was canvas. It's mobile tented canvas camp. So Gordy is, and he's just replaced all his tents this year. We got there, and it's all brand new tents. He keeps investing back into his company because he wants to maintain that true safari feel, and it is real. And so what true safari is that it's safari's journey. And you gather together this group of people, and that's what I do. I collect a group of people to come with me, and we all go to Kenya, and we meet up in the hotel the night before we go out, and we have our meet and greet dinner, and everybody gets to meet everybody. And then the next morning, we get up, and we get in the vehicles, and we go to the airport, and we fly out to the Mara. And for the next 9 days, we are a little family unit, and we need to rely on each other to keep everybody safe. We have to support each other to make sure everybody's coming forward with us. And we travel as this little group of people across the most amazing country, where you don't go through over it's only a dirt road. If you cross the road, there is not a fence, there's not a gate, there's no towns. Everything that you have with you, you have packed out with you in the vehicles before you got there. There's more crew than guests. Like, we had 13 guests and 20 to 25 crew.
Wow.
And they pack out all the hay for the horses, all the food for the people. We have whipped cream, and the meals are gourmet meals. It's incredible. And we travel we'll travel a couple hundred kilometers in the 9 days through this amazing countryside. And so safari really is journey, and we go out there, and we're in tented camps, beautiful stand-up tents with double beds for couples, and cow skin on the floor. And you're woken up in the morning, somebody comes to your tent, and they go, "Jumbo, coffee or tea?" And they serve you coffee and tea in bed.
Wow. Wow.
And they bring you a biscuit. You can have cream and sugar. And then the next crewman comes by, and it's like, "Jumbo, hot water for your face." And they pour hot water into these basins. So you have a commode, and they pour the hot water into your basins. You have a mirror. You go out and you wash your face with lovely warm water, and you get dressed, and you walk down to the breakfast table. And if it's a morning ride, there's toast and jam and honey and peanut butter and Nutella. It's the British fare, and Marmite or no Vegemite. Marmot.
Gotcha.
And you have your piece of toast and your cup of coffee and your saddlebag, and you walk out to the picket line, and your horse is already tacked up and waiting for you. And everybody takes their horses and walks away from the picket line, and then gets all organized, and we all mount up using a rock or a stump or a bucket, whatever, just to get on our horses. And we ride out into this just amazing land. And as you're riding along, there's a giraffe. Oh yeah, oh wow, and
really?
Oh yeah, I mean literally. There's a giraffe, and there's a herd of zebra, and a water buck, and riding along, just seeing and there's a Papa hyena over there, or Cape buffalo, or of course the elephants, and we come across the elephants, and you ride out and you just explore. You go down, like we camp along the Mara River, and there's a lot of hippo, and we ride down along the bank of the river, and we just see is anybody down there taking a drink, or who's crossing, or who's coming by, and then up around another little little swell in the ground, and you come up, and there's literally 25 giraffe right there.
Wow. Wow.
Yep. And then and you'll see secretary birds, which are these really tall birds with these big feathers that stick up on their heads,
Mm-hmm.
and secretary birds and lilac-breasted rollers, and you might come up on a silverback jackal, and maybe they have some babies or some little tiny warthogs.
Oh wow!
They're so much fun. And we just on camp days that we're not moving, we explore the area, and we ride around, and we just see what we can find over here and what's over there. And Gordy leads us around, and we'll go for a canter or a long trot. And you don't want to move at speed all the time because you'll miss it. It's
right.
It's
sure, I would imagine.
And unlike being in a vehicle, I mean, you are right there in the environment. You're right there on horseback, and it's just I don't know that I could ever do a vehicle safari after doing horseback safari.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah. Wow.
And then we come back to camp, and it's like, okay, everybody, just go and get a drink or whatever, get your water bottles, and we saw those lion over there. Let's go back and find them in the vehicles, and we all jump in the vehicles and drive out and explore some more, and then we come back and have a delicious lunch. I mean, the food is like amazing. They bake focaccia and soups, and great food. It's all cooked on a they have a charcoal stove, oven, charcoal oven, and an open fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they want you to fully immerse yourself in the experience. So you're welcome to go anywhere in the camp, go talk to the crew, go talk to the people at the mess tent, or the ones doing your laundry, or, go over and talk to the syces who are taking care of the horses, and just really be part of this incredible family of people from all different places. We have people from all over come on our safaris, and just really be with the land. And then we have lunch, and we take a nap. That's for about 2 hours.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it gets, so people say, well, how hot is it in Africa?
Yeah.
We're at 5,500 feet on the Mara. We're at altitude.
Okay.
So it's like dry. I mean, it's like 80 degrees, 82 degrees. It was actually nicer there this trip than it was at my house in Virginia. It was actually like high 70s, low 80s. And at night it can get chilly. You might need a jacket or something. But there's more mosquitoes at my house in Virginia than I've seen on safari. Okay? I mean,
well, you've got a big difference in the humidity there too, right?
Yeah, it's dry.
Yeah.
Because of the altitude.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we swam across the Mara River with the horses and went up on what's called the escarpment. So we were up at about 6,000 feet by the time we were at the top.
Wow.
So, it's like the climate is delightful. In the mid-afternoon, it gets hot, and everybody, including all the animals, goes and takes siesta for a couple hours. They all just kind of settle down. And then in the evening, we come and we have tea and cookies, and you can either go for a game drive, or you can go for a walk, or you can go for a ride when we're in camp on those days. So we'll go out in the evening, we'll go out for a little game drive, and that elephant video that I just sent you.
Yeah.
We went out for a game drive because we had seen some lion. And so I think somebody saw it in the vehicle. Yeah, in the afternoon. And so we went back in the evening and we found these 4 lionesses, and they were getting ready to hunt. And they were going to hunt these wildebeest, herds of wildebeest, because in September when we go, it's the Great Migration, which is the largest land animal migration in the world.
Yes, right.
1.5 million wildebeest travel.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're like little gumdrops dotted all over the landscape.
I'll bet.
So these lions were thinking about dinner, and it was starting to rain a little bit. When it rains, the wildebeest turn their butt to the rain, and which kind of sets them up for the lions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lions were thinking about dinner, and then the hyena went and blew it for them. The hyena.
Those damn hyena.
Oh, yeah, they blew it. They went around the other side, and all the wildebeest went, oh, wait, there's hyena. And the lion went, oh, whatever.
Gotcha.
So we were driving back when we found that elephant that was down in the river, in the riverbed, and came up and hooted at our truck.
Yeah, hooted at your truck. Well, I'm gonna see what we can do to try to play this. So for everybody who's tuning in, I'm gonna play a little video clip. I'm not sure if it's gonna go through. So if you're listening, this will be a great little test for future broadcasts also. So if you're listening in, let me know if you hear the audio now coming through this video that Wendy sent me.
No.
Either they're enthralled with the sound and they can't type, or it's not going through. No, okay. So Kendra says she doesn't hear anything, so it must not have gone through. Well, bummer.
I'll post it. I'll post it up on my page or on the comments on this so they can hear it.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, we'll find a way to share this with you guys because it's really awesome, this little video, and maybe I can even share it. Maybe I can find a way to share it in the comments after we're done here. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So
he's a teenage bull. He's probably about 15 years old, and he came up out of the ravine. And so there was 2 vehicles, and the one in front of us started their engine, and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And they don't have good eyesight, and it was kind of dusk, and so the vehicle pulled off a little bit to get out, to move away from him, and he backs up like, I think I might have to let you know how big I am.
Just to be safe.
Yep, and he trumpets, and then the vehicle doesn't really run away, so he's really rather confused, and then he's like, I'm just going to ignore you now. I'm just going to go back and eat this tree. It's really, really cute.
And it is a great little video, gang, so I'm going to do my best to get that loaded up here so that you can see it once we're done with our conversation. So, because it's a great one to watch.
So it's just a really amazing place, and one of the things about going on safari is that you peel away all the facades and all the unnecessary, and you get back. Brad always says, the Mara knows what you need and is there for you. And so you get out there, and it's so, I don't even know how to describe it. Gordy always calls it magical, but it's so real that all the trappings that we carry around with us every day just fall away, and you get into a rhythm of the land, and we're right near the equator, so the light's 12-12. It's 12 dark, 12 light.
Okay.
And you wake up to the sunrise, and when the sun sets, it's like boom, it's dark. And we have dinner in the evening, and in our tented mess tent, and it's a candlelight, and it's just beautiful. And
I'm kind of liking the sound of the rhythm you're talking about. Morning tea to wake you up, and gourmet meals, and an afternoon nap, and candlelight dinner. I think I could get used to that rhythm of life. Yeah, I think you're right.
No, absolutely. It's like, can we do this every day?
Right.
And the people are so amazing. And so one of the times when we moved tent, and this is just to give you an idea of how meticulous the crew is. You know what a goldfish cracker looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of our guests left a goldfish cracker on her bedside table. The crew broke down the entire camp, and we're talking all the tents. And when you have, 12 to 15 guests, you can, there's a lot of tents for the guests, never mind the crew, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, because you said you have more crew than guests.
Crew.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
So you got a little city, a little town you're setting up.
They break it all down. They pack it up. They moved it. When that guest got into their tent, the goldfish cracker was on the bedside table.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're meticulous. And, they are so concerned that you have a good time. I mean, they are genuinely concerned that, like, we had a woman, literally this happened. She lost her iPhone. We had ridden out, we came back to camp, and she lost her iPhone. Now, what are the chances of finding an iPhone in the middle of Africa, okay?
Right.
And it turned out her tent mate had a sat phone. And so they tried to use, Find My Phone to find the phone, but it wasn't 4G out there.
Oh, okay,
So
right.
we called on the sat phone. We got in the vehicle. We went back to where we had Bloody Marys and snacks.
Now we're starting to understand how the phone got lost.
Yeah. So anyway, we drove back there and we looked for the phone everywhere and we couldn't find it. We get back to camp and Karanja, he's in charge of all the vehicles and everything. Karanja's been with Gordy since he was a child. And he was wringing his hands. He says, "Oh, Wendy, Miss Wendy, she's, what are we going to do about this phone? What are we going to do?" And he was so genuinely concerned. And it was like, I was trying to console Karanja because my guest lost her phone because she was, And so, but the weirdest thing was another guest was looking to find a signal because she needed to make contact. And she found the phone. She found
no
the
way.
Wow.
Needle in a haystack.
Incredible. And Karanja was the biggest smile. He was so happy. Because they really, they want you to really live in their country and understand the country and the land and the animals and the people and the Maasai. And you are family, and they really care, and it's just the most amazing thing to be around people that are genuinely happy and genuinely care for your happiness. And I don't know that there's any good way. Everyone that's come on safari with us has said this so exceeds my expectations.
That's great.
Yeah, because you cannot describe what it is like to be in the company of people that truly love what they're doing, love the process, love being out there, and it's their way of life. I mean, Gordy is more at home on the Mara than anywhere in the world. And he's had, so on my second safari in 2010, he brought in a groom from England because he needed help with the horses, and that's now his wife.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Felicia came in and we met Felicia, and so it was her first safari out on the Mara with Gordy, with my group, and we watched all the sparks fly. And they try to tell us it happened later, but we know.
You were there to witness it.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they have a little girl that came on safari with us. She's 2 years old. She sits on a horse beautifully.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, pictures of her on Surefoot Pad. So we've now become part of their family.
That's fantastic.
And that's what's one of the things that's so special is that it's it's really unique. It's really quite, like I said, it strips away all the extraneous and all the superficial, and you get down to the basics of life. And that's really... Brad's more at peace on safari than anywhere in the world. So it's just real. Yeah. And the other thing, Patrick, that's so interesting is, what, over here in the horsemanship, this whole, we've taken this concept of predator prey to this extreme, we've drawn it out way too far on its line and made it too simplistic in black and white. And when you're in Africa, you realize there's so many subtleties in this whole system and this way of life that 99% of the time you watch the hyena walk through the zebra and the gazelle, and they're going back to their den, and you watch the lion sitting there sleeping with the giraffe that walks up and looks down and goes, "What are you guys doing?" And, I have a photograph of a giraffe extending its neck to its absolute limit, reaching up for the leaves on the acacia tree, with the hyena sitting at its feet. And
wow.
And so you start to realize that we really misused in a way this concept, and that
we've taken it a bit overboard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who's the prey out there? Us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You ride up on a lion on a horse and you're like,
Right.
So it's a very fluid thing, and it's not this black and white, and it's not this, like there's a sense of I don't know, flow or something. And then of course somebody gets hungry, right?
Yeah, sure.
And now when somebody gets hungry, it's like, okay, and you'll see everybody go, "Oh, they're hunting." Oh, but they typically take out the weak and infirm, right, or the young. I mean, they're going to take out
sure, the easiest ones to get, sure.
Right, and then you see the flip side where the Cape buffalo chases the lion and flips it over and literally takes its horns and flips it. So, or I'm trying to think of, even the zebra will get aggressive, and so we just, I don't know, it's kind of like what we do, I guess, is we take an idea that's actually very nuanced and complex and try to distill it down into a black and white situation.
Right.
And that's, when you're out there, you realize that's so not how it works.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, and it sounds like the way you're talking about the distance and the span and the space, and the picture in my mind is that, when you say we're the prey out there, you could be, by the sound of it, as much prey to the elements as you would be to the predators.
Absolutely.
Which I guess would make sense for then how they carry out their relationship as well.
Yeah. And the Maasai live on the land, and they're nomadic. They're less nomadic now than they used to be, but the Maasai live on that land, and they raise cattle, and one of the beautiful things that I've seen change in the 10 years I've been going is how they have formed these conservancies so that the Maasai value the wildlife. And so, before you'd have a manada in the middle of their land, and there'd be a lot of trash and flies and from all the cattle, and the game was pushed back. And tourism, they've recognized the value of tourism because it brings them dollars. So there's a large chunk of the safari fees that actually goes to the Maasai for being on their land. We're camping on their land.
Okay.
And they made these arrangements through these different conservancy companies that they're guaranteed a certain amount of income every year, regardless of the number of guests. So these companies like Safaris Unlimited have made a commitment to the Maasai, and in return they get to use the Maasai's land. Gotcha. And since they started this, I think it was like 2010, maybe a little later, what's so interesting is how everyone has prospered. That the manadas have been pulled back. The game has tripled since I first went there. We saw 25 lion. We saw cheetah. I've seen leopard. I've seen, herds of elephant and herds of giraffe. And, it's really, really come back. And at the same time, the Maasai benefit because there's better land management, and they selectively grazing their cattle in different places. And they have portable bomas now. A boma is where they put the cattle at night. And now they have, it looks like sort of round pen on steroids. But metal paneled bomas, which even in the 3 years ago they didn't have, but so they can be with their cattle as they're grazing them selectively along in different places. And then they brought their cattle down to the river, and here's the hippo standing on the side of the river, and all the cattle coming down and getting a drink, and everybody's coexisting peacefully. Wow. So this land management company that's in Mara North and the Mara Triangle has really, I can't remember the name of the guy that's in charge of it, but done a beautiful job of management and they have rangers, they police it, they patrol it, they, work on anti-poaching. The Sheldrake Elephant Orphanage comes in if they find a baby elephant. They have a plane now that can fly out, pick that baby up, get it fluids, get it into a good environment. So there's so much going on that's really positive in the management of at least certain areas of the Mara, and how that's brought the game back, and everybody's prospering. Because the Maasai own that land, they could turn around and sell it. It's not protected it's not under government protection. It's Maasai land.
Okay.
And as the Maasai benefit from the tourism, and they value the animals then flourish. And if, say, a lion takes down a cow, they'll get reimbursed. So they're not out that money. Gotcha. And they're not looking to get rid of the lion because it killed their cattle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's another area called the reserve where this management style is not in place yet. And it's, there was all these little tourist buses, and they were getting in the way of the wildebeest when they were crossing the river. And
oh, okay. Yeah, so there's not nearly the organization with the reserve that there is with the Mara.
In the Mara North and the Triangle where we are. Okay. And, this is Gordy's family, Gordy's family who started this Safaris Unlimited. His father, Tony, started the company in 1971, but the church family has been in Kenya since 1929. And they've always done things that would help benefit Kenya and the overall environment. So one of the things that one of the church relatives did was there's an area called the Aberdares, and there were white rhino. I think it was white. There was rhino in there, and they worked really hard to be able to fence it off and protect the Aberdares, thinking they were protecting the rhino, and it turned out they were protecting the watershed. And so these are the kinds of things that the church family. Another one of the churches, she was a research scientist down the Indian Ocean, studied turtles, and she saw these kids collecting flip-flops and making keychains out of them, and she wound up turning it into a company that's called Ocean Soul. There's over, I think it's like 400 people that they hire now, and they clean up the Indian Ocean. They pick up all the flip-flops, they bring it in, they wash them, they glue them together, and they carve animals out of them. And so they recycle. Yeah, it's cool. So when we go into Nairobi on day one, I always take people on shopping safari, and that's one of the places we go, because here's where we can see how something that someone's trash can be turned into a treasure and clean up the environment and employ people all in one cycle.
Yeah.
And so there's some really good things happening in Kenya. There's a strong middle class coming in, and they recognize how important tourism is to their economy. Mm-hmm. And so, there's so much pressure from outside on land, and so much pressure on the animals from, there's no formal hunting in Kenya, but there is poaching. And for a while, the poaching was really, really bad. And so, like, when I went in 2012 to 2015, the poaching just escalated out of control. But they've been working on it, and now it's decreasing again, and they're getting it under control, and they have patrols, and there's rangers, and they're really working hard to value the natural resources and to protect them so that they preserve them for the future. And so it's a really fascinating thing, but there's a lot of pressure on it, and that's kind of a sad story, but when I first was going, my first couple of years, there was an elephant there whose tusks were so long that they nearly crossed.
Okay.
And I have photographs of him, and then the next safari, when I went back, he had been shot, and he died in the river. He was because they were poaching, and they didn't get his tusks, but they were 100 pounds apiece.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's these old bulls, and they're all named, and they're national treasures. And so, there's these pressures of the outside world trying to come in, but there's pockets of good and pockets of people really committed to, like the Sheldrick Animal Orphanage, to helping and restoring and preserving. And so, it's really, how did I get there? I guess, because part of your fees when you go on a safari go to the Maasai, so that there's value in the wildlife, that there's value in the game, and there's value in preserving the land, and kind of pushing back on those pressures that want to come in. They, for a while there, they wanted to build a road across the Serengeti for the Chinese to get to a town of 100,000 people. Now, it wasn't the 100,000 people they cared about; it was the minerals.
Right.
And had they put that road in, they would have interrupted the largest land animal migration in the world. They would have interrupted the wildebeest migration.
Wow.
And there was enough tourism pressure from enough different places that they didn't do it, which was amazing.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of people working really, really hard. And typically it's the ones you never hear about.
Yeah.
To, preserve and sustain the environment and sustain the wildlife and sustain, help support a way of living that, and it's not, nothing's perfect, but to keep it from, losing this treasure that's just so incredible.
Wow.
So, I say that because it looks like our government's actually going to allow people to bring trophy ivory back into the United States.
Right, and that was just released, today or yesterday?
Yesterday,
and I'm
just
on
like,
that.
So, I mean, there's this constant pressure on the system. And so if anybody's ever had thoughts of going to Africa, it's one of those things that's like, I know right now Kenya's doing a lot to preserve the environment and preserve the Mara. And we just have to keep hoping that continues. And that the migration, because the migration's just phenomenal. I mean, every time I've gone in September, it's a migration. So they're not always in the same place.
Right, sure. We picture the Discovery Channel where they've got the shots of everybody moving and everything being clustered together, but that's surely not the way it takes place.
No, there's times when that happens. Like if they're going to cross the river, we watch them all go down to the river and they're all kind of wondering, and then they start to cross. And there's times when there's little groups here and little groups there, or when they look like little black dots scattered across this plain that's as wide as you can see.
Wow.
And there's times like I've gone and it's been like a feedlot, like literally like a feedlot. So, but that's the beauty of it, is that you never walk across the same footprints. You never walk, ever in the same exact path. And you follow the game wherever they are. That's where we go and seek out the game. And this time we drove the vehicles all the way down to the Tanzania border to look for the migration, because they weren't where we were, but they came back because the rains came. It's like,
oh right, yeah.
Yeah, so the rain, they follow the grass. It rains, and they obviously they must smell it or something, and then they all start to canter away, one after the other, and there they go. And then they stop, and they graze, and then they walk, and then somebody lays down, or somebody plays. I mean, it's just...
That would be such an interesting dynamic to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really quite so what you have to realize is this was never on my bucket list. I didn't have Africa on my bucket list.
Really?
No. Mary run me into it. And then in 2000, 10 or 12, she decided to retire and sell the company, and Gordy and Mary plotted against me and decided I was buying it.
Okay. Well, it's funny that you come full circle like this. It's good that you did, because Brad is listening in, and he sent in a little message asking you to describe a little bit about how you acquired Horsing Around International.
So Mary she has some health issues, and she knew she couldn't keep going, and she's older. And so, I'd been with her, I think 2 or 3 safaris. I think it was after the second safari, Mary and Gordy got together and decided that I was the one who was going to continue Horsing Around International. And so they plotted and planned, and the next thing I know, I'm buying a company that I had no intention of.
It sounds like she's really good at planning and talking people into things.
Oh, Mary's amazing that way. And when she gets her teeth on the bit, you cannot get it out of her mouth. Yeah. So Mary's good. She decided, and together they made an arrangement where I couldn't refuse it. And so it's, Mary's always in our hearts when we're on safari. And
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So I've been 7 times, Brad's been 5 times. We're going again this coming September 2018. And the reason we're going now is because this year I had Equitana in Essen, Germany, and Safari in the same year.
Right.
And I've done that twice. And it's just like Equitana is like a safari in itself, a completely different kind of safari, but it's like safari. It's 9 days. And I just want to get them on the off years. So Safari is going to be the even number years, and Equitana is, I can't move Equitana. It's always on the odd years. So we're going back in September 2018. We've got some slots left. We'd love to have anybody listening that wants to go join us.
Awesome. That's a question that has come in at least once so far from the listeners, is how do we sign up for that?
They can email me at wendy@wendymurdoch.com or, message me through Facebook or, and I can put up my information there, or maybe you can put it in the comments.
Yep, definitely. I will definitely do that. That's awesome.
Yep, and they can go on my website and find information about Safari on my website.
Awesome. And you've got quite a few photos on there also, don't you?
Oh yeah, I have not had a chance to put up my pictures from this past safari because I haven't been home, and I took them with a camera that doesn't have SD cards, so I have some great camera equipment. But I have some fabulous pictures in that elephant recording, which I just love. Yeah. I got to get that up there, and the picture of the giraffe with the hyena I need to get up there, and so I'm hoping I can get that done in the next couple weeks.
Awesome. Very cool. I look forward to those for sure. So what are the horses like that you're riding out there? Yeah. Well, I mean, and all of this is so fascinating. I could listen to all of this forever. But yeah, what are the horses like?
The horses are great. The horses are a mixture of thoroughbreds, Somali pony, Boaped, which is a South African breed, and now they've got a Frisian Boaped cross, and they've got a warm blood. What is Capillion? It's a warm blood. So they've got some bigger horses now. Okay. And they've got a bunch of thoroughbreds off the track that wind up absolutely loving being in a herd going across the Mara.
I'll bet they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have horses of different personalities and different size. The sizes are all around 16 hands, roughly, maybe 15.3, and then Capillion I think is a little bit bigger. Okay.
Well, they need to be pretty substantial to manage out there, yeah?
Well, there's, like I said, you need a variety, just like anything, because you get some smaller people and some bigger people, right? Mm-hmm. So Gordy and Flick, they know their horses so well. One of the things that always amazes me is that get there, they talk to my guests, and they know their horses so well. They match them up, and they nail it every time.
That's cool.
They nail the combos. And the horses, when they're at home, because they're not on safari all the time, live out in, it's a huge, I think it's like 5,000 acres or something. I'm not quite sure, but it's a really big place. And they have all the game except for lion. So they're exposed to elephants and giraffes and wildebeests. They live with them. And then they come in every day. And then, they're trucked out to the Mara, and they live on a picket line at night, and they have Maasai guards with them all the time at night with fires to just make sure everybody stays safe. Mm-hmm. And they're, it's really interesting to see how the horses operate as a herd and have their places and their personalities. They're allowed to have their individual personalities. And the care is, Flick is, Felicia is amazing, and she's does Bowen. She does Bowen on the horses, and they use Surefoot on the horses. I've got lots of pictures of the safari horses on pad.
Awesome.
Yep, and homeopathics, because it's really, trying to get a doctor out there is.
Oh, sure. Right.
Right. And a farrier. I think they fly their farrier up from South Africa. Well, they have one of the crew does the horses' feet.
Okay.
on a regular basis, and then they bring in somebody once in a while as a, kind of just to see how it's going on. So
wow.
It's not easy to keep horses in Africa. It's actually a luxury because there's a lot of diseases and things that are unique to Africa, and just the climate. So you really have to stay on top of your horses to keep them well, and they do an amazing job. They're so funny because they're blanketed at night. They get chilly. I'm like, chilly. I'm finally not hot.
Right.
And the Maasai is so funny because the Maasai guards, like, it'll get to be like 65, and they'll have heavy coats and wool hats on, and you're like, are you kidding?
Wow. But just so different than what they're. Yeah. Wow.
But they really care for their horses, and they're, we always toast the horses. I mean, they're the ones that are carrying us across the market.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So what kind of riders sign up?
We need riders that are capable of a strong canter, and that's a safety factor. So
right, because you told me you go out galloping across the land,
across the plain. But really, the rider ability level for this type of safari, you need to be a fairly strong rider and be able to do a strong canter for sure. Because we were riding along, and there was an elephant. She had her baby, and the baby was rather far away from Mama. And then she saw us, and her baby went running over, and she put out hers. She didn't charge us, but we were all very ready. So I mean, I have a picture of that, and I can post that too. It's not
awesome.
Gordy's really, really careful. He always makes sure you have a good experience, and he never puts you in a position where you cannot get out. In other words, he's not going to take a risk that is a dangerous risk. He has so good at reading. I mean, he's been out there since he was 5 years old. He's so good at reading his horses, his guests, and the game. And believe me, we were riding along one day, and he stops and gets off his horse and puts his arm down, and a chameleon crawls up his sleeve. How he saw
really?
that?
Wow.
Yep, and then he put it on a train and changed color to his shirt and changed back. So, their ability to see things, it's like, what?
Yeah.
You just saw a 60 elephant 5 miles away, or you just spotted that chameleon in the grass? How would you do that?
Eyes like a hawk. Wow.
Yeah, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
But he's really, like I said, I've been there 7 times, and we have had, wonderful rides and thrilling canters and everything. But he's really, and sometimes if we need to, we split the group. If there's a group that wants to go slower and a group that wants to go faster, and we can split the group. But, it's not a beginner ride. It's not an intermediate ride. And we've had a number of people that haven't been ready for our ride, but they made the commitment to come. Okay. And then that was the goal. They needed to up their game and be ready to go.
Oh, gotcha. Sure. That's the date on their calendar that they have to be ready by.
Right. And we've got a number of people that have done that have said, okay, I want to go. I'm not ready yet. And so they put it on the calendar, and then they rose to the challenge, and they got there.
That's awesome.
And the other thing that we've had some people that have come out, and it's been a bit more than they anticipated. And, they got through the ride, and they had a great time. And what I told them was, you will not know what this did for you until you get home. You will not know what happened. And then I get the email, you're so right. I mean, I feel so like I stretched to come on this ride, and now I'm such a more confident rider. Like, I ride my horse out in Colorado. It's great. No problem. Because they've done that little stretch out there with us. Right.
And
of course, I'm on the ride. So if there's anybody that needs some help and some pointers and that sort of thing, that's why I'm there.
Perfect. Yeah. What a great chance to live that help, too, for the time being.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. So you were talking about how Gordy does a great job keeping everybody safe, which is good, and that's definitely a good selling point if anybody is interested, if anybody who's listening. But Do you have a moment or an experience on there that would pop out in your mind as being kind of like the scariest moment you can think of on safari?
Oh, yeah.
That didn't take you long to think at all.
No, not at all. So we had ridden past a herd of elephants on our way to our lunch break on move day. So we were moving camp. So all the luggage and everything's packed in the trucks, and the camp's been broken down, and they're at the new place setting it up. And we ride into our lunch spot, beautiful little spot with trees and a little stream. And as we ride in, we pass this little herd of elephants. Okay, no problem. And we untack the horses, and they wash them off and rinse them down and get them a drink of water, and then they tie them to the different trees and things so they can graze, because they need to get as many calories as they can in on the ride. Mm-hmm. So they graze at lunchtime, and we have our lunch, and after lunch, people are, sleeping or reading or writing or just kind of hanging out on the cots and the blankets and things that we have. And I'm back by the little table where we had lunch, and the next thing I know, I hear trumpeting. You know that trumpet sound that I tried to play? Mm. Well, I've heard it once before, but I did not record it. Oh. There's a reason I didn't record it.
Yeah.
So they were moving a few of the horses to have them graze in a different spot, and so Gordy and Clemmy, Gordy, Clemmy, and Flip were moving the horses, and this elephant decided she wanted to bring her herd in for a drink of water, and she saw Gordy and put her ears in, not out. Out's like warning, in's like not warning. Dropped her head and charged.
No.
And as she charged, one person had my horse in hand, and he reared up and veered the elephant off. And Gordy's sunglasses got stopped. He ran back to the vehicle. The next thing, I'm standing there, and I hear an elephant trumpet and see an elephant charging toward me.
Oh, my.
And at the same time, I'm watching my guests look like, I don't know, 10 pins.
Right?
Oh, my
gosh.
And right and all over, and they're jumping into vehicles. And the elephant came into our camp. 2 horses went flying past me one direction. I've seen people fly all over the place. Gordy gets in his vehicle, starts to chase the elephant. James gets in his vehicle, goes also to help. 6 horses break free and run to the right and loop around. And I watch them loop around. We catch the 2 that went past me. The 6, I see them gallop to my right, and then they take a left away from camp, and they're gone.
Oh my gosh.
So we're standing out, and Gordy's on the radio at camp, loose horses, they're heading toward camp. Radio's back, this is what he told us. Camp radio's back, thank you, and he's joking, ha ha ha. And then the next thing, they're here, 5 minutes later.
Oh no.
So fortunately, one of the horses that got loose was the lead mare, and she was so smart, and she led these horses away from the thorn bushes and around the place where the lions live and took them to camp.
Wow, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. And so we're all like standing there, so everybody was really nervous. We broke out the rescue remedy. We're giving everybody rescue remedy. Right. And one of our crews there, and he just went out because the tack is all over the place, and I have all these guests that are now a little tweaked.
I'm sure. Oh, man.
And so we had Kip get all the tack, and I just made everybody organize the saddle pads and the bridles and the pads and the blankets. And the remaining horses, we got them tied fast to trees and close to us. And Gordy had radioed back. We knew all the horses were in, and they were all okay. Everybody was fine. And he comes back, and and we have tea. And then broke out the Cadbury chocolate.
Oh, perfect. That fixes everything. Tea and chocolate. Yeah.
Tea and chocolate. Very British. We're all okay. Time for tea and chocolate.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. Wow.
That was pretty exciting.
Wow. Yeah. And it's we can laugh about it because it ended okay, but that had to be terrifying in the moment.
It was pretty startling, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I forgot why she charged him. Okay, so Gordy had just gotten married and gotten a new stock whip. That's what happened. And so when she was charging, he cracked his stock stock whip, and she didn't like it, and that's what she charged him.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yes, he went to veer her off, and she said, I don't like. Turned out she was a hormonal pregnant mama.
Yeah, never mess with them.
No. But,
of any species, never mess with them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Particularly elephants, but wow.
But I have to say that 7 times I've been there, and we've, everyone, I stay in touch with my guests, and they just effuse about safari. And I have one guy, type AA. He said after his marriage and the birth of his daughter, this was the best thing he ever did in his life. And still says that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow. That's fantastic. How about a favorite moment?
Crossing the river.
Crossing the river.
I crossed the river, and I finally got to swim the Mara River.
Yeah. And that's, you said the hippos were in the river when you did that? Yeah.
Pretty used to stop, looked and moved them down again, but this time they responded correctly.
Good. Yeah, because they can be pretty cranky critters.
They can. But this is a place where horses cross regularly, and so the hippos that live in that area are used to it. And
Gotcha.
Yeah. And actually, the only thing bad happened there was there was a stick sticking out, and Brad rammed his knee into it, and he was a little sore. But it's those sticks that get you every time.
That'll do it. Well, if you're going to get injured in Africa, at least it's just a stick.
You're right. I'm sure Brad's listening and going,
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Well, I'm going to scroll through here and see what kind of questions we have.
Great.
We've got a lot of people that look like they're interested. It's gosh, the story, all these stories are great. I won't lie, you'd start talking about tents and camp, and the princess comes out in me, and I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do that. And then you mentioned morning tea and gourmet meals and the afternoon nap and candlelit dinners, and I'm thinking, well, yeah.
Anyone will tell you I am not a camper. Okay, I don't like camping, but this is not camping.
That's
this
awesome.
is glamping. This is like
glamping. Yes, I remember you saying that before. Glamping, glamorous camping.
Camping,
yeah. My idea of camping is having to pack my own iron for the hotel.
Well, they'll iron all your clothes for you.
That's awesome. Oh, I might never leave.
I know. Brad doesn't want to ever leave.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. So let me see in here. We do actually have one question come in from Samantha, and it's not safari related. Are you okay to field that one?
Sure.
Okay, cool. So her question is, how do you start, or what do you do when you need to start a pony that you're too big for? I think that's a great idea. Great question.
Long lining.
Long line, perfect. That would have been my answer as well. So awesome. Yep. So Samantha, long lining is going to be definitely is going to help you out with that idea. And Brad just said that they polish your boots every night for you too. So yeah, if they're going to iron my clothes, polish my boots, and serve me tea, I'm probably not coming home from Africa. So.
And an open bar 24/7.
Oh well.
Did I mention the amarula, which is made from the nut of the amarula tree that the elephants love to eat because it ferments, and it's like a Bailey's, only better.
Really?
And you have that at night, before you say jumbo to your pillow. Yeah, did I mention that?
You didn't. Yeah. You didn't.
Yeah.
You're starting to sound like Mary now. You're convincing me.
Well, you said you were going to come with us.
That's it. Oh my gosh. I can't wait. I will definitely do it at some point. Can't promise when. I know my schedule for next year is already booked up full. So
Right. So we'd have to plan on 2020 for you.
2020. We'll have to talk to my manager about that.
Right. Well, she'll come with you, right?
That's it. She better. So awesome. Well, this has been great. This has been great.
And if anybody wants information on the safari, they can email me at wendy@wendymurdoch.com or message me on Facebook or go to my website, send me a contact through there, or contact Brad.
Perfect.
He's going to actually do a lot of the answering.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Perfect. And I'll make sure that we get all of that information up in the notes on here for anybody to get in touch with you about that also. Let's see. Okay, we're going to wrap this one up then. So you know how we roll with all of these. You've joined me a few times now for this one. So we need a question of the day for everybody.
Oh, that's simple. What's on your bucket list?
Oh, perfect. Perfect. What is on your bucket list? Gang, put that in the comments section of this video. And of course, if your bucket list includes Safari Africa, horseback safari, then you need to get in touch with Wendy about that, because it sounds like an awesome time. All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. As always, this is an absolute blast.
Yeah, anytime, Patrick. It's really fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. So, gang, I want to thank you for tuning in for episode number 20 of Talking About Horses. I really appreciate you giving Wendy and I your ear. Please remember that if you've missed any of it, you can access the full broadcast, again, through Facebook, YouTube, or by streaming from iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from, through whatever outlet you're listening. Please be sure to give us a rating, a comment, a review, and a share. Your word of mouth is the fuel for this fire. Next Thursday is the Thanksgiving holiday here in the U.S., so I'll be spending some time with the family. Be sure to tune back in the following Thursday, that's November 30th, for my chat with gaited horse expert and clinician Liz Graves. Thanks, gang.